everybody, it's Sarah and it's Spirit of Saturday, and today we're talking about maintenance of recovery. And it can be very hard to do. Eating disorders are subject to relapse, and they're very resistant to treatment. And I personally believe that everybody at one point or another encounters sort of an ambivalence or a questioning, do I really want recovery? Are the costs of my eating disorder high enough to take the chance at recovery? And it's pretty. I personally think that if you're not encountering challenges like that in the beginning of your recovery, you probably didn't have an eating disorder to start with. So this whole ambivalence and this whole sort of, yes, I want recovery today, and yes, I feel really positive and really, empowered, and then tomorrow I want to crawl into a hole and hide and never willingly put something in my mouth again. That swinging from extremes is very, very, very normal. And one of the things that I like to tell people, or that I adopt as a philosophy of my own, is the days that I'm doing badly, it's okay. Just hold on to the gains that you have made, and don't worry about making any more on the days that are going badly. And the days that go well, make the most of them. That's when you do, that's when you manage to get your really big steps towards recovery. And, I have a philosophy of, don't make the same mistake twice. But I have given myself permission to relapse as often as I need to, because every single time that I feel like I do need my eating disorder, it's because there has something there that isn't okay, and there's something there that isn't working. And yeah, every time I try to do well in my eating disorder, every time I try to recover, I make a plan that that's going to be the last time. But if it's not a big deal either, because it's, as long as I don't make the same mistake twice, and as long as I learn from the mistakes I make, I will eventually run out of mistakes to make, and thus, by default, I'll run out of reasons to have my eating disorder. So it's kind of a long process, and it can be really discouraging, but patience is really, really key. One of the other things that I like to tell people, and that I probably think is probably one of the most important tools that you have in your repertoire of tools against your eating disorder, and definitely one of the most successful, or most accessible, is to keep yourself involved. And provided that you are not isolating, provided that you get out once a day, you have friends that you communicate with, you have family that you communicate with, as long as you are not alone in complete isolation with your eating disorder, your eating disorder's strength and your eating disorder's influence gets cut 1,000-fold. You cannot, by definition, have an eating disorder and a life at the same time. So the more of a life that you have, whether you're just going through the motions or not, the more of a life that you have, the more it crowds out your eating disorder. So I really, really feel very strongly about that, is to keep involved and to just, if I sat down and told you, eat a piece of cake, you might not be able to do that. You might not want to do that, whatever. But everybody can go out and get involved, or can, make a call to a friend or whatever. You might not want to, but it's not impossible to do. And that kind of leads to my whole next theory, or my whole next idea of goals. Someone once said, or once quoted something to the tune of, goals are not only essential for success, they are imperative and like really important to a life that you live, you know, with purpose, with intent, and to feeling alive. And I really truly believe that. You know, goals are really, really important. It doesn't matter how big they are, it doesn't matter how small they are, as long as they're smart. So, I have another video that goes through this, so maybe I won't go through that, but as long as they are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and done in a timely manner. You know, as long as it fits sort of those guidelines, it doesn't even have to fit those guidelines, as long as it's satisfying one of those requirements, you know, it's a worthwhile goal. And the more that you accomplish and the more that you manage to succeed at these goals, the more mastery you build. And then mastery is just one step closer to confidence and just a true belief that you can do something, and that you are empowered to, you know, say, I think, I can, I want, I will. And so goals are just really, really important, and it's a source of accountability, which is also really important, because if you think about it, your eating disorder holds you accountable in about 1,000 different ways. If you know, gain X and X amount of ounces, your eating disorder makes you pay for the next, you know, week or whatever till you start feeling better about it. But we don't ever have anything that keeps us accountable the same way in recovery. You know, a lot of times that's why outpatient support groups are really, really helpful. We don't really have any here. I mean, we have one organization who runs them, but most of them are run out of the hospital. But that is a really good resource and a really good tool, because one of the things that's really important too is, I like to call them recovery buddies, but it's kind of the same idea as a sponsor in AA and NA. The whole idea is that you make yourself succeed so that the other person can succeed. And I think that's a really, really powerful tool. And I think that it's really important to remember that recovery is not a process that you do alone. It's something to be celebrated and enjoyed by other people around you. And that it's really, really just sort of, it's an opportunity to grow. And why do you want to do that alone? But at the same time, when other people are around you and have the same level of have a level of accountability for you, you know, you can't get away with as much, and you're not tempted to get away with as much. So that's really important, I think, as well. Yeah, in dealing with challenges, you know, we have a tendency to let the really bad times get in our way, and we have a tendency to be really discouraged by the really bad times. And I think that's really unfortunate, because if you, like, psychologically they've proven this, if you go back and you remember all the times in your life when you're 80 years old, unless something is very traumatic, you don't remember the bad times. There's a reason people or women can give birth more than once. It's because they don't remember how brutally painful it was the first time. And I think that it's, you know, just remind yourself that today's a bad day, tomorrow maybe won't be as bad, and, you know, the tomorrow next year definitely won't be as bad. So yeah, setting goals, making sure that you're accountable to them, making sure you don't get isolated. And one of the really neat ideas that I've been sort of experimenting with is, like, I used to, well, still kind of do, but used to have some issues with dissociation. So I never was really living in my body. Like, I mean, I was living in my body, but I never felt anything. And I've finally gotten to the place where I feel okay, feeling something in my body, and it's not so overwhelming that I need to leave mentally. It's overwhelming, yes, but you know, it's something it doesn't like completely floor me. And one of the things that I've noticed, and I've been working at noticing, is that my body can feel really, really exceptionally good as well. But yes, everything that I felt that's really, really bad in it is heartbreaking, and nobody should ever have to feel that. But the fact that I can feel really good in my body as well is something we're celebrating. And you know, for me, one of the ideas that I toy with now is the idea of feeling good in my body and doing activities that feel good in my body. I recently took up horseback riding again, which is definitely very exciting. And yoga is a really good activity too that way. And you're mindful of how your body moves, of how your body functions, and of how good it can feel. And yeah, I don't think I deserve to feel good in my body a lot of the time. A lot of times I absolutely hate my body, and it can be really, really difficult to want to feed it and to nourish it, and never mind with, you know, good, wholesome, nutritional foods, rather than like crap that comes in boxes and I don't have to cook and that kind of thing. Yeah, it's hard, but it's also really, truly addictive too, because it feels very, very good. And you know, maybe one day I'll think I'm worth it. But in the meantime, I'm not fighting it. And that's another stage that you get in terms of recovery. And I think it's probably the halfway point, maybe a little further, where you're not really so much a willing participant, because you're still very ingrained in your eating disorder, and you're still very ingrained in all that negative self-talk. But you're also so done fighting it that it's just not worth it anymore. And that's when the slow steps get made towards meaningful recovery. And I don't know, that's just kind of how I think and feel about the whole idea. So I hope you had a good week. It was Eating Disorder Awareness Week in the United States. Ours was 2 weeks ago. Eating Disorder Awareness Week, or even today, or any day, great way to start off your recovery, or a great way to start off, you know, another phase in your recovery where you make more motions and you make more progress towards your goals and dreams. If you can think them, if you can put together goals and dreams that make you happy, then you deserve to have them. And unfortunately, life's not going to drop them in your lap, but at the same time, there's a goodness in the world that, you know, after a little while, the harder you work, the luckier you get. Which is another topic totally, and I want to do a video on it because it's really interesting. But anyway, that was how I felt about the whole maintenance and recovery thing. It's some days it's still hard to want recovery, but you know, a lot of times it's really exciting too, because you just get to begin to think about your future. So yeah, I hope that you have a good rest of the week, and or a good weekend, or whatever. Good weekend, and then the rest of the week starting Monday. So yeah.